to Lacrosse Link, your link to all things lacrosse. I'm your host, Steven Stamp, and whether you are watching on Lax Sports Network on Thursday night or on YouTube, thank you so much, or on Facebook. Thank you so much for being a part of the Lacrosse Link family. We appreciate you coming back every week for the best coverage of the game that you're going to find. This week, we have terrific interviews with a pair of the combatants in the ongoing National Lacrosse League Championship Series from the Colorado Mammoth. We are joined by Pat Coyle, the head coach, and from the Buffalo Bandits, rookie and scoring sensation here in the finals with 5 goals and 2 assists in game 1, Tehoka Nanticoke. They're terrific interviews. Stick around for a very interesting rundown at the end of the show as well. Thanks for being here on Lacrosse Link, your link to all things lacrosse.
Watched by Danby, a big pick from McGraw and another one. Back to McGraw. He's going to let it rip and scores. Liam McGraw from downtown.
Joining us on Lacrosse Link from the Buffalo Bandits is forward Tehoka Nanticoke. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Stamper?
It's going pretty well. I know you're off getting ready to watch a collegiate box game, which, it's that time of the year. There's so much going on, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. And the first thing I want to ask you about is, just the feeling of being in Banditland with, 14, 15,000 fans in the arena. And I love the quote from the post-game press conference when you said, it's the kind of game I've been thinking about since I've been held a lacrosse stick, running around the backyard in a JT jersey. Did it just feel surreal to be there in a championship series game in Banditland with everyone cheering for you and having the kind of night that you did?
Yeah, for sure. It's the type of dream when you're just little, running around saying you're gonna score the last buzzer beater, and just like memories like that are memories that I look back at and remember why I play the game. And it is surreal running out to Banditland, and I think it's about time that we get Banditland a banner.
There have been so many challenges on the way to this championship with the last couple of seasons, just not, a partial season and then a complete season wiped out. And it feels like the whole regular season kind of built towards this to me. And it feels like the playoffs and now the final, the level of intensity is ratcheted up. And it feels like it's, 3 seasons worth of excitement pouring into these games.
100%. The time away from the indoor game for everybody is definitely huge, and getting games like this are unreal. And I'm excited for what we can do and what we're going to do with this team. And I can't wait.
After the game, John Tavares said, your head coach, of course, who you referenced about wearing the JT jersey as a kid. And he said that he felt like you were just more confident. You just looked like you were more willing and ready to go to the net. But it looked like you just felt like you were just ready to do whatever you needed to do. Did you feel any different, or did it just feel like a game where it just came together for you?
I think it's just the game itself. Took a step back a little bit and reflected on the entire season and everything we've been through as a team and personally, and I'm just excited for it, and I think we're gonna do really well.
You did say when JT handed you the heavyweight player of the game belt after the game, and you put it up on the shelf and said, thanks. Basically said, thanks, that's really cool. We have another game to win, then we'll have a big celebration. Is that the mindset going forward as soon as the celly for that last game was over?
100%. It's always job's not finished. The Kobe Bryant quote there, and I'm excited because I know as a team it's gonna be unreal when we put everything together and get to what we started out at the start of the season, and that was to be in this game, this moment right now, and I'm excited for it.
And I mean, the other thing that JT talked about after the game was how he felt as a player and a coach, he looks at the record and says, Buffalo's 4-7 in championship series, and he just doesn't think that's good enough, and they need to get it done. He took a lot of the responsibility, having played in a bunch of those earlier Bandits championship series. They were single game championships at that point, but he said that the other thing he stressed is you cannot take anyone lightly. Colorado is a very good team. You guys know that. You saw that. You played them in the regular season. What do you go into game 2 with? What kind of mindset do you take considering all that?
It's gonna be a dogfight to the end for sure. We know Colorado likes to battle it through to the end of the game, and I know we do too. And it's gonna be a gritty win when it comes down to it. But I know we're ready for the challenge, and it's just everything built up into this game all season long for us as a team, as a family, and as Banditland itself. And it's going to be exciting to bring Buffalo another banner, a city that's been through a lot the last couple of weeks here, and I know it's going to it's just Buffalo strong. That's the type of win we're going to need, and we're going to need everybody.
You guys have really embraced the community in the wake of the 514 shooting, and vice versa. The community seems to have really embraced you with everything. Seems led by Dane Smith, but all the guys kind of getting in and being part of that. And how difficult is it to keep playing, but how important is it to keep bringing this healing game to the community?
Well, like you said, it's a healing game. It's medicine, and I believe it can do a lot of good for this world. And but that starts with like learning the history of the game and understanding what the game's all about. And I think that Buffalo is a great city to like see that, and they do see it. Getting 15,000 out to a game is unreal. This city of Buffalo it's strong, and it's really exciting to be able to play in front of these crowds, getting the crowds we do, and with everything going on, it's awesome to see fans still getting out to support.
Had a pretty funny moment before the game where you're being interviewed. I think it was Devin Caney, it looks like, from the NLL, interviewing you, and I guess asked you about some advice you'd gotten, and you said basically the only advice you'd gotten really was a couple of years ago. Ethan O'Connor said when you're going to play for the Six Nations Chiefs, and he said,
just don't suck. just go out and just don't suck. And that's probably one of the easiest and simplest advices I've ever gotten, because it's realistic, and you never want to suck.
And you could tell as you said it, and then you kind of repeated it, and we're kind of laughing, and everyone's sort of laughing, and you could tell you didn't say it as though it was going to be some big catchphrase or anything, but it seemed like as soon as you said it, you kind of knew, okay, this people might catch on, and it kind of blew up a bit. There are people with fans with signs saying "just don't suck" in the stands, and it was kind of a catchphrase for going out and playing your game. Did that surprise you, and what was that whole experience like?
It was just funny. I don't know. It's like the first and simplest advice that's kind of even just stuck with me in general since then. And the way that OC told me it was just hilarious. We're running out to the huddle. It was probably like a regular season game, and we're just running out, and he says, "All right, just don't suck." It's like, all right, OC, and kind of laughs it off. But it's like, it's so simple that it's real good advice, and it's something that's just easy to live with, and you never want to suck. I think that's something I said in the interview there, but that it was pretty funny. I didn't really expect it to blow up like it did, but it was pretty funny when everybody in the room started laughing, and we had to cut it out after because it was just everybody's laughing for like a couple minutes there.
And obviously easier said than done when you're going up against the other best players in the world. The last thing I just want to talk about quickly is the final play, with Nick Weiss getting the pass from Ian McKay, breaking in and scoring that goal, and then so much pressure from Colorado right down to the end. You guys just can't seem to have a nice quiet end of a game. That has to be a good, obviously you'd rather be up by 2 or 3 goals and not have, Matt Vince having to make huge saves, balls bouncing off posts, having to see if the ball went in time in games. But boy, does that ever prepare you for whatever you're going to face in a championship series, right?
100%. A game of lacrosse is a game of runs, and I think we just happen to, I don't know, it's crazy to think of our last 3 games of the playoffs were 1-goal games, but that's what the NLL is. It's every team is competitive, and you can't go into any games expecting anything. You got to go out there and battle every shift, every play you get your opportunity out there. You got to battle, and it's a game of inches. Any given Sunday quote there.
Yeah, there's one of my favorite turns on that cliche was somebody saying, they say when Reggie Jackson hit a home run like 500 feet or something, and somebody said, they say baseball is a game of inches, and Reggie just hit that one about 1,000,000 inches. Great catching up. Let's go enjoy your game. Thanks so much. We appreciate you taking the time to come on the show, and good luck this weekend, and if necessary, in Game 3 as we put a very exciting conclusion on this NLL season.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Stamper. Let's go Buffalo.
Joining me on Lacrosse Link, the head coach and general manager of the Colorado Mammoth, Pat Coyle. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Stamper.
It's good to have you on. And I want to start with something you mentioned in your post-game press conference after the very tight and very tough Game 1 loss, was that you'd made some trades during the season. It took some time to gel, but the offense was really coming together. It's very normal, I think, in a process like that for it to take a bit, but you came together, and shockingly, we're continuing into the playoffs. I think a little shockingly that with Ryan Lee out, you just kept scoring more goals. It really seems to have come together. I'm curious what you think it is that clicked, that made everything start coming together the way it has.
Probably Eli McLaughlin would be. He just stepped to a different level, and it seems like he pulled everyone along with him. That would be number one, I think. And number two is probably Zed probably plays differently with Ryan not there. The ball's in his stick a little more, so that probably changes the way our offense plays a little more, like with Ryan not there. So, Zed maybe takes a bit of a back seat with Ryan there. Not that he is taking a back seat, but you know what I mean? Ryan just has the ball on his stick so much.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting when Zed started, like you said, stepping up a bit more. It's almost like you could see it, the thinking process in the early games where he's like, okay, I have to carry the ball. I have to do some things here. And it felt to me like maybe in the first game or two, he was trying to do almost a bit too much, but he really seemed to get comfortable with the role and working with, with Eli and Connor and everybody as the games have gone on in the playoffs.
Yeah. And part of it is just maybe, just like any athlete, some games we have are better than others. And, or maybe the defender that he's going against is a little better than others, or the matchup's different. I thought in the Game 2 against San Diego, Brody Merrill did a really good job against him. And I think it took, he had to go away and sort of watch the film, and it's hard to make the adjustments some of the times in the game. So, I give him a lot of credit that he came back and had a different game plan for Game 3.
It's interesting as you talk about that. I've thought the same thing about Tehoka Nanticoke, another young, very talented player with a lot of gifts, that people tend to talk about the skill and the talent and the size, Zed being so big and strong and able to do things. But all of that only really comes together with the work, with the film study, with the attention to detail, right? I mean, guys, you can be as talented as you want, but you have to do the work and have an IQ for the game to really succeed.
For sure. Yeah, you can have all the skill that, you know, in the world. And if you, man, as an individual player, you may have success some of the times, just in like great talent at some times will show up. But in this league, especially over games, if you don't rely on your teammates, if you don't put the work in, you'll get exposed. You'll get exposed. And because every team is watching when you have success, and they're game planning on how to stopping that. And they've got a plan that they're going to do. And so if you don't adjust, if you don't change what you're doing, if you don't read the defenses, it's going to look like you're running into a brick wall a lot of times, or you're trying to put a round peg through a square hole. Like, it just won't work.
Yeah. We've talked about the offense, which has been terrific in so many games in the playoffs here. As an NLL Hall of Fame defender, I know you're not, as a coach out there, looking to be playing in 15, 14 games. But it's a testament, I think, to the skill level of the players that even with two very good defenses, two of the best goalies in the game, they are filling the nets up. Do you think there'll be an adjustment, kind of like there was in your game 2 against San Diego, where the defenses were able to rein them in a bit?
I think so. I just think, again, it's you know, once you play against a team, and like recently, even though we played against them, you know, it feels like 5 months ago, but it wasn't. I know it wasn't that long, but that we'll be able to watch some film and sort of maybe adjust just how we cover the floor a little differently. I'm sure Dylan's going to see where they shot on him and maybe adjust a little bit. I actually thought we made some of those adjustments in game, and we were better in the 3rd and 4th quarter for sure. Man, that's a really good offense that's going to score goals, but I feel like there's a few that we could limit some of their goals, you know, like having said that, I still feel like our defense and our goaltending gave us a chance to win. Like, especially like I said, once our offense got going there, we were close. And, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to say. I thought our D could have been better. I thought our goaltending could have been better, and it's hard not to do what ifs. Yeah. You know, that last goal that's got scored against us, I feel like we weren't responsible in the transition there. So it's hard not to make the whole game about that goal. But really, I didn't like us being in that situation to begin with. I thought we could have been better in the 1st and 2nd quarter.
Yeah. Speaking of what ifs, and not to bring up a sore subject, but I thought, and it didn't even really get talked about a lot, but on the Chris Cloutier goal, where he dives around and wraps it with the one hand, I'm quite certain his left hand was down in the crease beforehand. And I was wondering if you even got to look at a replay, because it seemed like things just kept kind of rolling on. And I don't know what kind of opportunity you had to see whether you should challenge or not.
For sure. We see 2 quick replays up on the board, and everyone's like, where you're going, yeah, it's close. It's close. But as we know, with like the flag that we threw before, you could clearly see the ball's not in. Yeah. And I just find, because the call was a goal, that it has to be definitive for them to overturn that. And it was still only a goal difference there, and it's 11 minutes left or 10 minutes left in the game. So I felt at that point maybe the timeout was more important than the flag itself. And I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in. I've seen where I feel like, man, that you can see clearly the call, and it's still, they say it's not definitive proof. So yeah, I don't know. And you have to make that decision within 20 seconds, right? So yeah. I think I probably err on the side of caution a lot.
Yeah. And you made a good point that, you know, you see a couple of replays. I think, like, I went back and watched it because there wasn't a lot of talk about it. And I just kept watching again, and I watched it on frame advance. So I'm sure that they would have caught it if it had been challenged. But it wasn't until about the 4th replay they showed that you could actually see a couple of them. It didn't even give you a suggestion because, you know, his body's in the way. You would have had no idea, I think, from some of the replays you would have seen. So, you know, and unless you saw the 4th one, you really wouldn't have had a good idea that you should challenge.
Yeah, it really depends on the 2 angles that you get to see on the big screen. So I didn't see that. And I know Andrew McBride like texts me the next day or the day after, and he's showing a screenshot saying, this is really close. But even then, it's still really close, right? Like, it's still really close. And they come in before the game and they tell us the angles they have, and they don't have that. I really like it when they have the syncing ability, when they can show one frame and then they can go to the other angle and they know it's at the same spot. And they didn't have that ability that night. So, which again goes against your chances of having it overturned as well.
Yeah, because otherwise you're having to guess as a ref. And if you have to guess, you're not likely to find it conclusive, right? Well,
just the word guess means not definitive, right? As soon as you're guessing, it's not.
Yeah. Tough one. But again, like you said, that, you can't say that one, I mean, there was, like you said, 11 minutes left. There's a lot of plays in the game. You don't want to think about it coming down to that one, to that one play. You had chances. And you've got another chance this weekend. What do you do to be ready for game 2 and trying to set up a game 3?
Well, build on, I think, the second half of the game, the confidence that we gained from that second half. And I sort of feel going in that there was a lot of talk about, not necessarily from us, but outside around us, and how good of a team Buffalo was. And it didn't really seem like we had a chance. That's sort of the feeling we were getting, from outside. And I feel like we didn't feel like we played our best game by far. And that gives us a lot of confidence going into the second game, I think.
Really appreciate you taking the time to come on, Pat. It's always great to catch up. And if it makes you feel any better, last week on the show, Steve Priolo tried to convince me that the Bandits considered themselves an underdog because they'd lost to you and they knew that you guys were really good.
Well, that's a good. I don't believe that for 1 second.
I called him. I was like, I don't think people are taking that approach, but it was a great game. And I think there's going to be more great lacrosse to come, at least one more. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if we've got a couple more games to go.
Thanks, Steve.
Hi, this is Jaden with Al Anderson Source for Sports. Excited to tell you that we got all our new lacrosse product in for this upcoming season. Whether you're playing box or field, our lacrosse experts are going to make sure we get you into the right equipment to elevate your game. At Al Anderson Source for Sports, we know our stuff.
All right, lacrosse friends, hope you enjoyed those conversations with Tehoka Nanticoke and Pat Coyle, both contestants in what is looking to be a very, very exciting NLL Championship Series. Game 1, of course, going to Buffalo. So now we consider, as we start the rundown, the challenge that faces the Colorado Mammoth as they head into a home game for Game 2, and they hope a Game 3 back in Buffalo a week and a bit from now as you're watching this show or as the show comes out. And the challenge is that there have now been 15 best-of-3 series played in the National Lacrosse League playoffs over the years. The team that won Game 1 has never lost the series in regular games. There were 3 instances where a team that lost Game 1 came back and won. All 3 of those were actually in series with mini games back in 2014 and 2015 when the league did that, where there were 2 games and then they played the 10-minute mini game if those games were split. They actually had Rochester in all 3 of those games. In 2014, the Nighthawks beat Buffalo in Game 2 of the East Final and then the mini game. And then they went to the championship, lost Game 1 to Calgary. In Calgary, came back to Rochester and won Game 2, and then followed it up with the mini game win in that one as well. And the following year, 2015, Rochester beat the Rock at home in Game 1 of the East Final as they tried to extend their winning streak. They'd won 3 straight NLL Cups, or Champions Cups as they were called at the time, but they went in Toronto, lost Game 2, and then lost the mini game. Actually got blown out in that mini game. So, of the 10 3-game NLL playoff series where there was no mini game in place, the team that won Game 1 went on to take Game 2 to sweep 7 times, 7 out of the 10 times. The team that won Game 1 swept the series. And the other 3 times, the most recent being in this year's West Division final with Colorado beating San Diego. The team that won Game 1 lost Game 2 as the losing team in Game 1 came back to win, but then the team that had won Game 1 went on to win Game 3. So it is a big task for the Colorado Mammoth to overcome. Now, does that mean the Mammoth don't have a chance to win this series? No, of course it doesn't. It just means that recent history suggests they do have a big challenge ahead of them. Of course, they knew beating Buffalo twice in a 3-game series was going to be difficult, so it's not news that it's a big task. The Bandits have made it quite clear that they know they still have a lot of work to do to clinch this series and win the team's first championship since back in 2008. So we will see how things play out. It has certainly been an exciting playoffs. Game 1 was fantastic. My guess is Game 2, a little tighter defensively, a little lower scoring. We'll see how it all plays out this weekend, and if there is a Game 3, and if Colorado can keep their magical run this year going. Premier Lacrosse League had its opening weekend last weekend, and what did we learn? We learned that Lyle Thompson is still great. He had 4 goals and 2 assists to lead the Cannons to a 16-10 win over the Water Dogs last Sunday. Jeff Teat, we knew he was great. He's definitely still great. He's on the top of the scoring list with 5 goals and 2 assists for 7 points. He's actually tied with his Atlas teammate Eric Law at 7 points, and Atlas beat the Redwoods 17-11. Another interesting game on opening weekend, rematch of last year's championship with the Chaos and the Whipsnakes. The Chaos, of course, the defending champions. They were right there. They led for a good chunk of that game, stayed right with the Whipsnakes, wound up losing a 1-goal game, 9-8. But the Chaos did that even though they had 7 players missing from their roster, 7 key players, Dane Smith, Josh Byrne, a lot of key players who were just not available. On a related note, the PLL still seems to be taking pains to not acknowledge the existence of the National Lacrosse League. There were some contortions by the announcers to not say why these players were not available, and it's because they're playing in the NLL finals, which is a very good reason to miss the first couple of weekends of the PLL. That is where the missing Chaosians were. Seems a little weird, seems a little petty by the PLL, but whatever, it was a good weekend, some really fun lacrosse, some close games, and the goal of the weekend in week 1, probably Eli Gobrecht, the long pole going between the legs backwards for a goal. Absolutely sick play. Gobrecht actually had a breakout season this year in the National Lacrosse League with the San Diego Seals, establishing himself as one of the best American players in the box game, and he appears to be carrying that momentum over to the Summer Field League. Also south of the border, U.S. Boxless Collegiate Series is underway. The Collegiate Box League's getting started again. That's where Tehoka Nanticoke was when we spoke to him. He stepped away from the arena for a moment to get some good sound for us. We appreciate that. But he was heading back in to watch the Upstate Box League, which is one of the several leagues the U.S. Boxla has going. One of the cool initiatives to grow the game in the U.S. There are several different groups doing it, and really giving American players a chance to get their feet wet and learn in the box game. They need the time, the reps, the games played. So that is critical to the future of the sport. We need to have more Americans playing and playing at a high level. Box has been on the decline in Canada. Hopefully we can turn that around. It's growing in the U.S., and the upstate collegiate leagues are one of the reasons that's contributing to that growth. Big news for another cool initiative that's making things happen for box lacrosse this time in our own northern part of North America. The IIJL World Junior Lacrosse Championship is back in Winnipeg this year and have announced that they are back on TSN. I had the opportunity to call the games last year with Brian Shanahan in Winnipeg as we brought lacrosse back to Canada's sports leader, TSN. Last year, with a trio of games broadcast either over the air or streamed on tsn.ca and the TSN app, over 150,000 people tuned in to watch World Juniors Lacrosse. It's been recently announced that we're back on TSN this year, and the tournament is back to 6 teams. Last year, it was just Canada East, Canada West, because of COVID reasons. This year, Canada, Haudenosaunee, the U.S., Poland, Israel, and Australia are all playing. The teams who took part in the last full World Juniors in 2019 in Mississauga. And there's also big news behind the benches as a pair of legends will be coaching. Gavin Prout has been announced as the head coach for Canada, and Casey Powell will be an assistant for the United States. So huge news there. Should be very exciting. That is the beginning of August in Winnipeg and on TSN. Remember to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Ring the bell. Make sure you get yourself notified whenever we have a new episode of Lacrosse Link coming out. Set a reminder for yourself to watch it on Lax Sportsnet every Thursday night if that's how you like to watch the show. We appreciate, however, you are tuning in to Lacrosse Link, your link to all things lacrosse.